I think start early. As a football coach, one of the things I've been telling all my football coach friends is like, man, you can own a property and you get interns, you get GAs, you get grad students coming and going all the time. Just house hack a property.
From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Jared Hottle here on the show. Jared, welcome.
Hey, Neil, thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you're here. Say for the audience's sake, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, my name is Jared Hottle. I'm a real estate agent at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services in Waterloo, Iowa. Real estate investor as well. Live in Waterloo now. I bounced around a little bit, but I have lived in Waterloo for most of my life now. Born there and raised there. So.
When did you get into real estate?
Yeah, I took a little bit of a different path. I wanted to be a college football coach. That was my dream growing up, and wanted to be like Bill Belichick. So I got an economics degree because he had one. So I went to Central College in Pella and helped with the football team there. And that kind of parlayed into a graduate assistant job up in South Dakota and kind of worked my way up there, and then went to Minnesota, Division II school, Minnesota Crookston. We weren't overly good, but we were kind of improving and getting better. And then our school decided to drop football in 2019. So I came back here.
Like my alma mater, University of Nebraska at Omaha. Same time.
That's right. That's right.
Yep, same exact thing.
Yeah, it's a little, kind of shakes you to the core, but came back here in 2019 and obviously 2020, you kind of know what happened in 2020. So a lot of schools were canceling sports or the seasons at least, and hiring freezes. And I've always been a guy that was like, I'm going to take it as long as I can take it. And that just felt like a natural end. So, then you do a little soul searching, trying to decide what skills do I have? What are the, applicable skills? And in college football, the name of the game is recruiting and getting on the road and getting on the phone and talking to people and following up. And so I thought maybe something in sales might work, and kind of, I don't know, fate might have it. But I was talking to my cousin at a wedding, and he introduced me to Bigger Pockets, if you're familiar with what that is. And so got on their podcast and read some of their books. And my grandpa had always had rentals growing up, and I always spent time mowing the grass or painting or changing outlets, all that stuff. Kind of thought this could be the role for me, and bought a duplex. And then I, kind of naturally this whole time I'm thinking about a sales job, and it kind of just naturally fit with being kind of investor-minded real estate agent. One of my friends was in real estate at the time, and I talked to her about joining on at their brokerage and what it would take, and went in and met with the broker there we were just a small little firm. It was called Inspired Real Estate, and he's like, yeah, we don't take new people, but if Kayla knows you, then we'll see what we can do. And took the classes, passed the test, and late 2020 started in real estate. So that was that whole transition. But it's been, I always think of Warren Buffett tap dancing to work, and that's what's been great. It's been a perfect fit for me because every day is just a fun, exciting adventure. Obviously bad things happen and crazy things happen in real estate, but every day has been fun at the end of the day for me. So
take me back to the coaching days. I'm curious, what was your position there? Maybe in the last couple of roles, or what'd you do?
Yeah.
Football teams are big, and there are a lot of people. I mean, literally, when I played, there were guys who were coaches. I use that lightly in quotes, but I had actually no idea who they actually were or what they actually did. And I know some people are listening to this and would be like, that isn't real. Legit.
Yeah.
The staffs are huge.
Yeah. That's, you're not wrong. And it's funny you say that, because we had someone tell me one time, it's like, you need to show people what you're doing, because there's a lot of people that think you just put a whistle on 10 minutes before practice, go out and practice and come back. They don't know what your job is. And, it's funny. I was at a small school, so we never were blessed with a huge staff. So that was good and bad, because obviously it got you a lot of problem solving skills, where you're figuring little things out and doing a lot with a little as far as budget goes. And just a multitude of different things, whether it's class checks or, getting in and going to the weight room, watching guys there, or even just one-on-one meetings, or, you kind of become a quasi counselor in some ways too. But I was at Dakota State. We weren't overly great when I first got there. And then we just recruited hard, and we had a head coach that was from the area, and he really had some good ties for a fundraising standpoint, but also he just committed to recruiting. We're going to get into schools and we're going to go out and do stuff and see what happens. That's, you don't want to sit here and stagnate, so we ended up winning some games, and I ended up moving up, as we went. And I was a receivers coach for my entire time there, but I was the offensive coordinator and receivers coach at the last 2 seasons there. And then I became the offensive coordinator at Crookston and coached quarterbacks there. So again, we were a staff of 3 on the offensive side, probably 3 on the defensive side. So it was a fairly small group. And, but you wouldn't trade the lessons for anything. I mean, the leadership lessons and the fact that, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's a short period of time for these kids. And so they want to know how they can get on the field, or, how they can contribute. And so it's having those tough conversations, but then also kind of having the conversations of, the people that work, or the people that stay, the people that grind it out are going to be the ones that are rewarded. And like I said, I think that's a great life lesson for anything that you're going to do. Nothing's really given to you no matter where you're at. So, but yeah, it was a great time. Most of my recruiting was in, Iowa, Northwest Iowa. I did a lot up there, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and a little bit in small town North Dakota, which is always interesting in the winter when you're driving around in a little, Impala or whatever, but fun time. Like I said, getting out and seeing kids and putting a face with the name. I think all that stuff is really, really helpful in the recruiting process. I was just talking to a friend of mine. He was the defensive coordinator and I was the offensive coordinator. He's like, dude, it's completely changed now with the NIL, and a lot of the transfer portal's a big one for our small schools are kind of getting poached when they develop players, and then their senior year they're going off and playing at a bigger school. And I'm like, man, that doesn't sound fun. I'm sure we would have figured it out, but I feel like it was the right move at the right time for sure. So
what core values had to go in place to turn a losing team into a winning team that you also apply today into your business?
Good question. I think it's consistency. Can you, what's the maximum you can do every single day? And that is everybody thinks they can do, a million things. They can do this, they can do that, they can do 30 minutes of, training a day. They can do 30 minutes of in their playbook a day. They can do an hour of film study. It's like, that's just not going to happen at the end of the day. You're just not going to be able to do all that. But can you do, 30 minutes of, something football related every day if you're a player? Or for me as coaching, it was recruiting. Can you do, 30 minutes recruiting a day? Even when you're on vacation, even when it's a weekend, can you just do that little bit? Because it seems to be a lagging measure. And I think the same thing in real estate, where, the stuff that the thing you're reaching out for now, and the people that you're talking to now that are saying, no, thank you, not interested in selling, not interested in buying, all these things. A lot of times those are the people that are going to come back around 6 months from now. So you're kind of planting your seeds now and hoping for harvest later. And that can be, I've noticed in real estate, it can be difficult, because when you get on a hot streak and you're busy, you kind of put all that by the wayside. But if you can try to kind of soften out those peaks and valleys, I think it can be even better. And that's been my goal. And that certainly has been something that I've taken from football, where you got to kind of prioritize, but then be as consistent as you possibly can.
That makes me think, the day the Super Bowl's over, the day after the Super Bowl, teams are recruiting. I mean, they're going to the contracts. It's over. Cool. High five. What's next?
Oh, and that takes a special person.
No doubt.
And that
it doesn't end.
And you got to have the happiness in the journey. That's all you can do.
Well, the journey, you have to realize the journey is a destination.
Yes. I think the same thing in real estate. You have a big closing that you worked hard on, and you're so pumped for those 30 minutes, an hour, and you're like, all right, well, on to the next one. It's kind of tough, but you're spot on. I think it's a drive for sure.
You buy a duplex. Did you live in the duplex, or was it straight rental for you?
Straight rental. Thought about it for a while because it wasn't renting. Probably a lot of people have experienced this in Iowa, but September, November, October, not great months to rent. So it's been a great rental since then. But it was, how you get a little doubt creep in that, oh man, what am I doing wrong? But, so I didn't live in it. Actually, I moved back with my parents right when I came back, and I suppose I lived there for exactly a year because I ended up buying a house, and that one was I would call it a fix and flip. I still own it, so maybe it wasn't a flip. Definitely fix up, and it's been rented out now, and looking to sell it actually this year. I like playing the game with the you live in it 2 of the last 5 years, and I play capital gains, so that's kind of been fun way to make a little extra money. But yep, that was the path there. So it was the duplexes first, rented those out, and then getting a house right away. So
You self-manage the duplex?
I do, and I still do.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was two of them right away, which was funny because, again, going to a lagging measure, it was like, okay, I want a duplex, start cold calling all the duplexes that I want to buy. And of course, no one's interested. And then, two in the same day that it's like, well, can I do them both? And so, you're kind of baptism by fire, but you knew they were going to be pretty good properties. So I think it was worthwhile. One inherited duplex, or one inherited tenants, and the other one was completely vacant. So it was kind of a good combo that way too, where you kind of learn how to deal with inherited tenants and how to raise rents early without a revolt, but also learning how to market and get it rented as well. So.
All right, so if you're presented with a duplex today, the two do you prefer? Inherit tenants, or you prefer it's vacant?
Well, let me tell you something. As a real estate agent, I think the vacant duplex is going to sell for more. I really do. I think you're going to get more people through it. I think you're going to be able to spruce it up a little bit. They're not going to beat you up on the little things that maybe you wouldn't do just because there's been a tenant in there for, a good amount of time. I have seen some people play the rent game where it's, they try to really crank up rents. Maybe they worked out a deal where the first month's free, but your rent's going to be a little bit higher, so they try to get up on the and sell it on a cap rate. I think the duplex, you're probably better off, like I said, keeping it vacant, let people doing their own research on what rents will go for.
I think that's because people's imagination will set in and allow them to pay more, i.e. the book is better than the movie.
Yes. And I mean, house hacking is still a real thing, whether people do it or not. They love the idea that they could do it, I think, because people are always like, oh, you could house hack this and house hack that. And it's a great idea. I certainly think people should do it, but I am always shocked at how few people actually that are interested in doing it are willing to, yeah. So, but you leave the option there, I think. That's a lot. I'll start with that. I mean, you make a lot of mistakes. I think everybody needs to manage their property at least for the first year. I'm a big advocate that you kind of want to manage a couple properties just from a tax write-off standpoint, especially if you're in the real estate world, you can kind of benefit that way. I think, obviously, if you're a handy person, having tools and being able to, kind of work those into a write-off, or having, a dump trailer, whatever, all that different stuff, it's great. And that's been awesome for me at, self-managing. But, some of the hardest thing, I had my first eviction this year. I guess it was last year, but that was obviously, I knew evictions happened. I've seen people do evictions, but just you never sit there and make sure your dates are right, make sure your names are right, spending the time with a lawyer, making sure you're doing stuff the right way. There's also, of course, a human element to it where you can do everything right and you're sitting across from the person, and it's, you still have that little bit inside you that's like, maybe I should have some grace here. So I think that's been great for me to kind of learn, kind of what you can do in actual, by the book, and what you can do, and still kind of be a human and work with them, and, hope they don't tear up your property because you're also being, nice to them, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been taking pictures, a good camera. I've been taking pictures and using, Fiverr or Upwork or whatever to edit them. And that, I think, has been a game changer for rentals, just because you don't see too many people doing, at least up in our area, you don't see them doing, edited pictures. And I think that's been huge for renting them. I love, Facebook over anything else for marketing it. You get a lot of, kind of just low or weak leads, but it seems to get out to the masses, and people will tag people that are looking, and you can kind of get a good feel for who's out there.
Quality and the quantity.
The quality, yes.
Hey, Iowa investors, this is Ava Bautkamp, Chief of Staff at Legacy Impact Investors. Have you thought about adding real estate to your portfolio but don't have the time or desire to play landlord? At Legacy Impact Investors, we do the heavy lifting. Our team finds the deals, manages the properties, and handles all the day-to-day operations. Our select group of qualified investors co-invest with us, gaining ownership equity without opening a tenant email or responding to a maintenance call. They just share in the income, appreciation, and tax benefits. These opportunities aren't for everyone. They are for qualified, accredited investors only. If you want to learn more, please visit LegacyImpactInvestors.com to apply.
What's something you wish you would have known the day you started relative to managing?
Well, so that's a little bit tough for me because I watched my grandpa, the entire time. I always, not to change the question on you, but I always laugh because if he was alive now, he'd probably hate how easy it is for us because, I mean, he would meet them with an application, would go down to the courthouse and have to look them up, make sure they didn't have anything, and now we just do it all online. So I think that stuff's great. I'm trying to think, one of the things that I don't love is, kind of the unauthorized tenant. I think that's or unauthorized dog. Those are both tough ones to navigate that you can't really have a playbook for until they happen to you. And I think each person's different. If the person is, respectful and takes good care of your property and pays, it's hard to really, hold it against them. And if it's, someone that, all of a sudden there's just trash everywhere or something, it's like, okay, how do I get this person out if I want? Because it's like, do you really want to go the nuclear option and send a 7-day notice to, cure or quit, So I think that's definitely one that's been difficult for me. And I think having that conversation on the front end has really helped me with, hey, this says guests can stay 14 days. Um, you know, Obviously I'm all good if you want to move someone in. There's an extra bedroom here, but we just need to get them on the lease and make sure that, there's someone we want in the property.
Well, I'm kind of curious. Waterloo's a smaller market. There's nobody around it. I'm curious, are you a specialist in certain areas in the agents world and or the investment world? Or, are you more of a generalist just given kind of the size of the market?
Yeah, I definitely a generalist up there. I think the generalist fits my personality even better. I listen to your show and hear all the guests, and I hear a lot of specialists, and I have a lot of respect for them because they are a mile deep, and it's awesome to hear them talk. But whether by necessity being in our market or maybe just matches my personality and necessity, but certainly do quite a bit of everything, commercial sales, doing some commercial leasing. We got, obviously, this is a pitch for Waterloo Cedar Falls, but we got everything. That's what's cool about Waterloo Cedar Falls. Des Moines has everything too, but not too many other markets, and maybe Dubuque, but we got the great industrial world. We got Cedar Falls has the third biggest university, so we got the student housing kind of world if you're looking in that, and we got certainly free land in Waterloo, lots of new development going on, and apartments. You got Section 8 housing, you got old, converted duplexes, you got brand new stuff. So certainly you got to know a little bit about everything because we have everything, and it's been fun because, again, it goes back to it's just not a boring day. You're always kind of working on something or trying to get an angle for something. So
when you're working, over the last few years, when you're working with investors, helping them guide them through, acquisition, where do you see investors getting it right and where they're getting it wrong?
So at the most base level, I see some people want to get into investing. I think they're watching YouTube videos. They're wanting to get in the game. They know they need to. And I think one of the things that they really miss the boat on, and I'm not saying that there's not, gurus and different programs out there that's not encouraging this, but what are your true expenses of an investment property? I try to take the approach that it's a version of a 401k or retirement plan where, if you take care of your properties, they're going to take care of you. So don't be pulling the money out, and just kind of keep them nice. Keep working on them. If you have a big, gain from something, can you put it into, property and try to keep that down, put a new roof on, those things. But I see people, they look at their mortgage, their insurance, and their taxes as that's their only expenses. And you got the opportunity cost of vacancy. Of course, you got maintenance that's going to pop up, and you got CapEx that can completely wipe out, years and years and years of, $100 a month that you're making, so that's one area that I try to encourage people to look at. If you're trying to retire by buying single family homes, I think you're going to need a lot more than you actually might think you need if you're not factoring in, CapEx and maintenance and vacancy and all those little things that can go wrong. And of course, tax increases, which we've, maybe not seen as crazy as we have in the last couple of years, so yeah, that's definitely an area that I think, people get it wrong. I think with commercial buildings, I think one of the areas there that I'll see people, miss the mark is letting their emotions play a role. Maybe it's a place that they know or like or want to improve because, that's just their personality, but, the numbers don't lie. And at least if you go out and do your own research, those numbers shouldn't lie to you. So if all of a sudden you're a 4 cap or a 5 cap, it's like, yeah, you might just want to be doing something different. But so definitely those areas I see people kind of miss the mark.
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
What are you most excited about this year?
Oh man, I think so. I'm excited about a lot, of course, but the excitement goes up and down, and depending depending on what part of the phase you're in. I've been helping some great commercial clients recently, both long-term leases and potentially building or finding a new building, and that has been so much fun because I think sometimes your commercial clients are a little bit more visionary and they can kind of see, something that maybe, an investor in a single family home or a duplex might not see. So it's been cool to watch maybe them, what they are going to come up with or what we're going to end up doing. But for me personally, we're building 64 units. So we closed last year too, and right next door we're building 64 more. And it's been, that'll be my first development actually from the ground up, and stabilizing the 52 first has been a great blessing to not get them all at once, so kind of getting those rolling. We're about 92% occupied, which is fantastic after we just raised rents. We thought we'd lose a few more than we did, and of course 64 coming online, none of them are rented yet, so that'll be a fun I think year probably it'll take. Hope maybe a little longer. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But that's right downtown Waterloo, so that's been fun to watch. And of course, I love Waterloo, so it's fun to kind of add
self-storage, contractor base. What are they?
All self-storage. Yes, right now they're all a mix of 10 by 10s, 10 by 15s, 10 by 20s. But the new ones are going to be all 10 by 20. So you're not running them out. Your square footage is bigger, so you're not getting as much per square foot. But I think the 10 by 20s just seem to be the most versatile. You can get a car in there, you can get a whole house in there, all those things. So that's been great, and all our 10 by 20s are rented right now, so that's a good sign, I think, for the future.
That's great. When's construction start?
I was just driving by today, and they were grading today. He thought concrete and asphalt would be in the next week or so. We're supposed to close on them in May, so we'll see if that.
My fingers are crossed for you that bonus depreciation comes back in at 100% and goes retro.
That would be that would be ideal.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. Yes.
What have you learned in the development piece? Going through that process, acquiring that, managing that, or how do you manage it?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about that.
Well, the development stuff, I think the biggest thing I've learned is it doesn't matter how much good you think you're doing. There's always someone around there that hates the project that you're doing, So kind of getting that thicker skin, I think. Obviously, I've heard it, I've seen it, I've helped clients with it, but you don't until you kind of experience it yourself. You're like, man, that guy, he doesn't know I'm a nice guy, but no. So that's been kind of interesting. I think stormwater, that has been super interesting for me. I didn't have much exposure or anything to any of the SWIP stuff, or even like the construction management with the silt wraps and all that stuff. So that's been cool to kind of learn. The contractor we have doing it, he has done stuff like this before, and he's a great teacher. I think he's a great person to talk to and listen. He's willing to talk to you about anything, and he's done a couple other projects before, so that alone is worth a lot just to learn more and how you can do stuff. So yeah, that stuff's been good. It's funny you bring it up. Another project we're doing is the food bank is expanding in Northeast Iowa, and they had 2 houses and they didn't want to tear them down, so they're willing to give them away. And so we were working with the city to get some free lots, and we hired a mover that's going to be moving them. So it's funny because it's basically the same. Yes, exactly. So we're working on that one, and that's been fun too. It's kind of a mini version of that where you still got to do the stormwater and all that stuff. Got to build garages and build a foundation and all this stuff that goes with basically a new build house.
The infrastructure and the power, sewer, the water. Yeah.
Exactly right. But it's fun to not see them torn away and do something different. And like it goes back to just problem solving and being curious about stuff. It's like you can just go out and do stuff and ask questions and see what happens. And that's been really fun the last couple of years for me. Now that you have enough money to survive, and you made it kind of through real estate and sales, and you're doing okay, and so you can kind of deploy some of that capital. So
that's exciting. For you, why Iowa? You've been around the Midwest. You've planned it anywhere, but you choose to be here. Why?
I knew you were going to ask this question. I hear it all the time, but I and I think there's been some great answers. Certainly, I love living around my family and friends, and that's been great. I can't say that like you said, you can go anywhere. You can go to Des Moines, even. You can go to a different market, and certainly what I know, the principles that I have, I'm sure I would have been, fine other places, but I just love being able to do a bunch of different stuff, being able to fail and, the failure isn't fatal because you can adjust and the market's a little bit forgiving in the Midwest when you're not paying crazy prices for stuff and you can try stuff out and you can, I look at California sometimes like, I don't, you can't build yourself. You can't do anything really as a homeowner. And it's like, man, I loved, learning how to, renovate. So you kind of, your wool's not pulled over your eyes later. I love being able to manage my properties and get to them all within, 15 minutes if I have to. And cost of living is fantastic. I think all that's been great. Fortunately, there's been a big, I don't know, push to bigger cities just because they say opportunity, doesn't maybe exist in some of these rural communities. I think being a big fish in a small pond is an awesome thing to do, especially the size of Waterloo, where you certainly have everything that you could need, So it's been fun to me. It's been great to be someone that's known at City Hall and can execute and someone that is going to keep doing projects and you can do it without much capital and without much time, and experience in the market yet. So that's why I love Waterloo. Certainly I think everywhere in Iowa is great. And all the small town Midwest markets are fantastic. So
Jared, you ready for the final three questions?
oh yeah, let's do it.
If you had one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Man, my 20-year-old self, I hear this all the time and I'm going to say it too, but I think start early. I think, as a football coach, one of the things I've been telling all my football coach friends is like, man, you can own a property and you get interns, you get GAs, you get grad students coming and going all the time. Just house hack a property, just live there and sell it when you're done. I could have made some good money doing that, if I would have thought about that, kind of in those years. So definitely would have did that.
2 books that changed your life.
Well, I'm reading one right now. It's The Five Wealths, and it's pretty good. It's climbing the list, but I'll always say, this is a Warren Buffett. I consider myself a real estate value investor, kind of finding the value and stuff, but influence and how to win friends and influence people. Certainly both those books have been great for me from, a sales standpoint, but also just trying to, trying to be a good human and care for people, so.
Yeah. If you were cast away on an island for a year, you can only get 3 pieces of data about your business each and every month.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 3 things you must know to know how your business is running? We're gonna pose this as your investment business only. Not
Investment. Okay. Yeah. So I think obviously, investment with the storage coming online, I think vacancy is going to be a huge number that we're going to be watching on that. I think we want to make sure that we're, kind of right in the spot where we need to be. Certainly want to make sure the mortgage and the bills are being paid. We're not going to tax sale or anything like that. So making sure, we're not delinquent. Deal flow is a big thing too. I know you could say a lot of things there, but, I certainly want to always have something I'm working on. So, I mean, that might change here and there, but, you see that there's no projects in the hopper or nothing active being worked on. I think that would be a little bit of a cause for concern. So.
Okay, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've asked you lots of questions. What's one question I did not ask that I should have asked?
I should have been ready for this one, but I forgot about that. Let's see, I don't know. Maybe you ask, why are you at, how'd you pick your brokerage or why you're at your brokerage that you're at? I think that would be a good.
Let's do it. Yeah, there's so, I was you may not know this, but I was in the brokerage business for a long time. I'm actually practicing on the real estate side. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of brokers, and at the end of the day, it's a value proposition from the brokerage to the agent that gets somebody to select, right? The agents, at the end of the day, they get to control and make a decision about where they want to go, where they want to land. They're the ones driving the ship. This business is about them. But ultimately, the broker and the brokerage create an environment that make it very hospitable, all right, for agents to be part of. So you landed someplace. Why?
Yes. So I was at Inspired Real Estate, very small brokerage, and it was the best. I didn't know it at the time, but it was the best for me for sure. I'm a self-starter. I love learning. I love reading and listening to podcasts. And so I thought, a lot of the other ones, they're selling, we're going to help you out. We're going to help you out. Of course, we're going to take a big split from you, but we're going to help you out and teach you the business and teach you how to be successful. And I thought maybe I could do a lot of that myself if I was left to my own devices and just had someone around me that, didn't let me. Obviously, there's a lot of gray area in real estate, and you want to try to stay. Keep it in the road. You want to kind of keep it in the road as best you can. So it was just worked out perfect. We, pretty conservative brokerage team and other agents around me, and steered me in the right direction, and just found out early on it was about grinding it out, doing open houses, talking to people, following up. And so it fit really well for me. And I don't think I would have fit at any other brokerage that would have been a little bit more of a hands-on approach to training and how to do things. Cause I'm a little bit of a contrarian and want to do stuff, my way, no matter what someone tells me. So that's been great. He's since retired and we got bought out by Berkshire Hathaway, and that has been awesome too. It's interesting to see the corporate side a little bit. And I've appreciated that, cause obviously there's some benefits with that, but there's drawbacks at times too. So it's been kind of good. And I've never been one to really want to bounce around. And, once I got a good thing going, just kind of hang out with it. So that's where I've kind of landed. And it's been great, obviously, having an office in Waterloo and Cedar Falls. And some of the surrounding areas were a pretty well-known brand. So it's been good.
You mentioned Warren Buffett a couple of times.
Yeah.
Did you ever think you'd work for a company?
I know.
Oh,
I know. How cool is that? That's been we're coworkers,
Yeah.
We're just colleagues. No, that's cool. Not been missed in me. So that's been fun.
For people that want to find you, follow you, connect with you, where can they go? What should they do?
Yes, that's great. I created my own website, hottlerealestate.com. I'm certainly active on Facebook, been kind of trying to crank up on LinkedIn. I think that's been a great impressions and all that. So that's been fun. So you can see me there. And then I do have a TikTok. It's kind of fun. So if you want to, more of a younger video side, that's been good. So, yep, those are kind of the main things.
Links below in the show notes, everybody. Jared, I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.